Alright guys, we are here at Sage 23 with some indie games to play through. So in the previous stages, I would have always taken forever to cover all these entries. So this time around, I'm going to try to cover a bunch of these in bulk. So for this session, I decided to just commit to keyboard and mouse. So whether any of these games have built-in controller support, I wouldn't really know. So we're gonna go ahead and jump into these. So the first one up is called 10-Second Backdoor, and it is a puzzle style platformer. So I'm gonna say this right away. The game had way too much dialogue and it had unskippable cutscenes. I don't know why we are still making unskippable cutscenes in these games. And it's like, yeah, I know you worked hard on your story, but here's the thing. If your story was interesting, people wouldn't skip it. At least not on their first playthrough, since they've never seen it before. Which brings me to another topic called replay value. So if you have to sit through the cutscenes, even though you have already beaten the game and know what the cutscenes are about, that's going to be very frustrating. So anyway, after sitting through all the cutscenes, I finally got into playing this game, and it was just very meh. However, I feel inclined to give this game a bad rating just due to me having to sit through all of the dialogue just to experience, like a mid type of game. So it just basically runs like there's this character who is basically proceeded through the level, and you have to place obstacles and turn arrows on the platforms to steer him into the door, because if you don't, he'll just run off the cliff to his death. So it's one of those, think fast, act fast type of games, and it just seemed okay, but it's not really my type of game. So the next game is Adventures in Cursed Island, which is a platformer 2D game. It has a very old school feel to it, with the image lacking in color like it's some kind of old Game Boy game. And it doesn't have any story, and I feel that the game was okay. But I will point out that you are not able to adjust your screen while playing this game. So I had to deal with this really small, tiny screen while playing this game. So the gameplay, like I said, is okay. You can jump, you can throw this ring or frisbee like object at enemies, and you can also use the frisbee to create a platform for yourself so you can reach some high areas. And you also have access to an air dash by jumping and double tapping forward. So the pacing of this game felt a bit odd, as there didn't seem to be any endings to the stage, like any point tallying or cutscenes, but rather the game would just fade out and then fade back in whenever you reach, the right side of the screen. So I would have spent a little bit more time in this game because I thought it was actually okay, but it was because the screen size was so small that I just couldn't bear with it for too long. Next up is Adventure Kitty Drill Buster, which is a game that was here at the previous Sage, and I remember enjoying this game the first time around. There's a nice opening cutscene that tells a story without overstaying its welcome, and it has responsive inputs with great music, and it has built-in controller support if I remember correctly, and it's also in a Unity engine, which makes this game even more enjoyable. So the gameplay works very simple. You just drill your way down, collect enough coins to advance to the next part of the level, all the while avoiding enemy attacks and collecting emeralds for some extra points. So the game is great. However, with this demo, it doesn't seem to differ very much from its previous entry. So every sage has a few games that makes you think, why would they even submit this for us to play? So this, ladies and gentlemen, is one of those games. This is called Annie Adventure, and this game is basically butt cheeks. It's so primitive from the menu, like to the actual look of the game. It looks like it was drawn in Microsoft Paint, and really, I don't know who thought that this was okay, but it's just so unfinished to the point where it should have been submitted. All you do is play as this overly scaled female hedgehog that jumps. You can do a double jump, and that's about it. So you basically jump on two platforms and cross this spike pit, and the rest of the stage is just you running. All the while the screen just gets darker and darker, and then the game just ends. So like I said, this game is just bad, and if you don't put any effort into creating a good game, nobody's gonna care about it. And this is the perfect example of that. So this is one of those games where I would definitely say just pass on it. So the next game is B.U.D., a 2D platformer Metroid style game, which is very well done. So you can see that this game takes inspiration from Vector Man 2, as the game's opening scene is very similar, and even the stage music is a remix of Vector Man's Jam. So I played this game a bit longer than usual because I really found myself enjoying it so much that I was actually going to finish it. So that all changed, however, once the game's difficulty increased with more platforming. So the platforming itself isn't very hard, but me playing this game on a keyboard just made me think that it just made the game more difficult for me. So because I enjoyed this game so much, I decided, I'm going to go ahead and plug in a controller. So the game luckily does have controller support, but the input response is very bad. So there was so many times where I've tried to jump over like platforms or whatever, and the character just would not jump. So there was a whole bunch of times where I was just getting stuck on the ladder and enemies was hitting me, or if there was a part where I just obviously had to jump to get to the next area, but my character would just fall into the pit even though I was tapping the jump button. So I'd say that this is a very great game, and it's the best game that I've played at this session. But the best way to play platformers is definitely on a controller, and sadly controller support for this game is very bad. But I would recommend this otherwise, especially if you're the type of person who plays these games on keyboard.